Someone is at the front gate.
Power supply. Morning, welcome in. Yeah, we've got a Neo Geo look at this morning. We have, see what we can see on this. Zoom out a bit maybe. Oh yeah, these things cost a fortune as well. I've got like 4 myself still at the minute. So this one's got main fault, sound works, static graphics, kind of working animation, turning on without something shows yellow screen. If not too expensive, want to get it modded. So that's the customer's note. Yeah, the power, I've actually got them sitting down here, funnily enough. I made that many of them, and I never really advertised it. So we've got obviously like the clean light that sits over and lights up that, but because these are so rare, I'm probably going to have them in stock for like 7 years. I've got 500 of them. We've got yeah, no audio coming through on the chat. This chat audio thing is completely random. Comes through sometimes and then just stops other times. Yeah, like the monitor mix thing seems... Yeah, the system one's glitch. 1 second. It's this Elgato wave thing. It's defo seems to lock up randomly. Yeah, how strange. Yeah, I'm not going to bother killing the Elgato at the minute, the wavelength, so I might not spot your chat popping up with noise, and it'll probably just start working again. I don't want to kill the audio at the minute. Hey, welcome in from New Zealand. Oh, there you go, and the audio starts working again randomly. So at least my actual audio seems always fine. It's just that chat overlay audio randomly stops working. Yeah, so I haven't even powered this up yet. I've got it out. First thing I've noticed though, I went to turn it over to plug in, and there's no screws in this, so there's also no feet on it. So I presume the customer's, I don't think he even worked on it. It doesn't look like there's any work been done. Still dusty and stuff, but there's no feet and no screws. So I think they've at least had a look in, maybe. Hopefully they've done nothing else. Oh yeah, Rusty, I've just been giving him a cuddle. He's I think because it's cold, he keeps just staying by the radiators in the kitchen. He doesn't want to wander up here in this weather. So I'll have to go and drag him in at the end of this stream. But first thing I'd do before applying power, this is the customer's power supply, is to also check inside of these anyway. So the fact the customers give us no screws makes this bit a little bit quicker. We can take the lid off, take this power switch off before we do any work in case we accidentally melt or touch this. I've done that before and had to sacrifice one of my own to replace it. This is the factory hot glue, but look at this. This is like all these wisps of hot glue, even though it's literally from factory. So this is, I doubt this has ever been worked on. It's still got like strands of glue from factory. So this one, let's at least power it up. The first thing I do is check here. If you see this big inductor, then you know you're safe to plug in any Neo Geo power supply, whether it's 5 or 9 volt. The 5 won't work, but it won't kill it. Whereas if you don't see this and you plug in a 9 volt, you can kill the Neo Geo. So you definitely want to check before you plug in a power supply. If it is 9 volt, make sure you see this inductor here. So we're safe to power this one on. So we'll plug in power there. I could measure the voltage, but let's just start with seeing if we can get this thing to power on. OSSC. Get an overlay. Yeah, 363 starting bid on eBay. That's pretty good, to be honest. You can pick them up on like Jaws and Sendico. You can maybe get one for around that, but they'll still need servicing. Hey, welcome in on YouTube. Just working on a Neo Geo AES. Don't know the issue yet. Haven't even powered it up. What's that little white thing on camera? Is that me? Light lens. There we go. Right. So if you power these up without a gain, you should get a blue screen, I think it is, with stock BIOS. So the BIOS is stock over here. And you get a white screen if you've got a uni BIOS. So let me get this up over here. And then I think tap once. There we go. So we're on the right source. Now we turn this on now. The customer says it works, so we should get a screen. Or not. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was... That's not good. Okay, so a bit dodgy, but it does say it works. So let's just grab a game. Samurai Spirits. But that flickering's a sign of maybe bad power. It's probably the dodgy power supply. Am I selling Unibios? Yeah. In mods and parts, Neo Geo. And then you should get... yeah, this thing ain't working. You should get an option there for the Unibios and the... Oh, yeah, we've got a sync issue here. It's struggling to lock on sync. So I'll tell you what then. If the OSSC struggles to lock on sync, it might be because I'm using a clean RGB. And this isn't clean RGB modded, so it'll normally work, but your sync's a bit dodgy. So let's drop to CRT. Either way, something's not quite right with the power, for sure. And we can remove that. How much are they worth in good condition? £1,000, probably. I've got a low serial number version that is like a 7,000 serial number. This one is... let's have a look. What serial number are we talking here? They're normally in the hundreds of thousands, yeah. 154,000. So I've got one that's got literally 0077 something, which is the lowest number I've seen anywhere so far. But I have brought quite a lot of them. So let's see if this CRT works if we turn on. Oh yeah, see that when we booted. See that kind of jagged... That startup is a bad sync. I've definitely got a grey eyebrow. Joys are getting old. I need to blur the camera on the face cam so you can't see the grey eyebrow. So the fact it's locking on this, the CRTs are a bit more tolerant of bad syncs. They have like a lock on. Yeah, we're missing graphics completely. We're going to control. Oh yeah, that's quite broken. So the thing with the Neo Geo is you have loads of different graphics on this. So you've got a line sprite generator, you've got a pixel generator, you've got line doubling circuitry, you've got video RAM. So the fact you can see some graphics and then others completely missing gives you a hint at where to look, basically. But I've personally never seen this exact issue before. Nothing even like it. We do know that we've got the sprites, though. The top-level sprites are working. And yeah, it's the main graphics. So maybe the B1. I doubt it's going to be the line sprite. But I've genuinely never seen anything like this yet. So we will figure this one out together, basically. I've no idea where to look yet. I'll show you the wiki, though. Show you where my diagnostics up to this point on these things has got to. And then we'll add this to the wiki as well. So we'll probably... I'll probably have to screenshot the stream to capture that, which won't be the clearest image, but that's what we'll do. Yeah, I've got real hair. Yeah, so I don't know if people were trolling on yesterday's stream or serious, but they thought my hair was a wig. Like, no, I wouldn't put greys if I had a wig. Yeah, Neo Geo is one of my personal favourites. The only problem is I always play Metal Slug, and I've since sold my flash cart. Well, I've sold the 161 in one flash cart. Somebody brought it. So now I do actually have a Tyrannium somewhere. I'm going to have to find it out because I don't own Metal Slug, the original cartridge, and the like. I didn't realise how expensive they were. I'm sure Metal Slug X is like coming up to £600 or something crazy just for the single game. So I'll save up for that one. And yeah, same on TikTok. I never had one of these as a kid, way too expensive, but I brought them when I started repairing them. So only a few years ago, and then I absolutely loved them once I got them. So yeah, the Mega SD, I've got one, funnily enough, right here. So one of them. The problem with Tyrannium is they're absolutely terrible for support. And the same for the Neo Geo cart, the one I've got, the plastic shattered within no time at all, so it's in bits and held together. It doesn't work very good on the power draw, it pulls too much power. There's quite a lot of issues with Tyrannium. I wouldn't use them if there was an alternative, basically. This console is a Neo Geo AES, for those joining in a little bit after. So, a home arcade, basically. So you had these things in arcade machines called Neo Geo MBSs. And this is like the home arcade version, and this is genuinely arcade hardware. So it is, one of the only true arcade systems at home, really. Right, so let's take a look at what we're doing on this. Oh, actually, before we do that, let's pull up as well the wiki to go over anything I've ever found on this to see if we have anything. I'm pretty sure I've never seen this issue before. So we'll go to, wow, I've done a lot on the wiki for the Neo Geos. We'll go to the retro6.wiki. I've come down to Neo Geo AES, and then you can see all the articles I've written on this. I've clearly done a lot of work on this. The one I'm interested in is visual diagnostics. So you can see with the default BIOS, blue is all test passed. It's kind of hinting to tell us there's a video RAM issue, but take that with a pinch of salt because that's rarely true. Like, it might be in this instance, but it just means there's an error. It can't read from the video RAM, so it might be trace damage. It might be the chips that connect to it. And then we have here, a lot of them indicate where potential problems are. So no sprites and backgrounds, actually. We're not far off this. So if you have foreground text like credits and scores, but you have no character sprites, it could be the FVRAM, also called just VRAM. So I can run a diagnostics BIOS as well. I could take the BIOS off here, plug in a diagnostics BIOS, and it will give us a bit more info, but I'm not going to do that just yet. And then again, this shows us where they are. So these are very common chips to fail. So that is here. So it's telling us to suspect around this area. It could be these chips. I think I have them spare as well somewhere. The problem will be finding them. But I do have them spare. And then flickering graphics, that was a rare one. That was the B1, I think it was. And it was the LSPC A2. Sprite doubling, so this is where you then start getting into the LSPC stuff, the line sprite that I said it's not going to be, because the line sprites are fine. You've also got this involved in it. You've got color and palette generation all down here. You've got the B1 that's involved in single pixel data. So pretty much most of the Neo Geo is involved in the graphics. That's kind of the problem with it. And you've also got the game cartridge slot can interfere with all of it. If they're not clean, you can get all of these issues as well. So it really is one where it could be any. So you see, we've also got this kind of partial flickery background. Not exactly the same, but we have this corruption of the background. And again, it's pointing to the FVRAM, which is video RAM here, and the yellow screen. So all the tests are kind of pointing us to this area here to look at. So I'd say we probably, based on the wiki, might as well follow that. The line doubling the SVRAM, it's unlikely to be that. So I think, based on what I've diagnosed so far with them, and I've done quite a few, it's kind of telling us to look in this area. So let's just get this out the board anyway, before we do any work on it. We don't want to be working with this in the shell. Get the power button out as well. and all of the screws in this are the same, except you get 4 for the cartridges here, and you get 2 in the memory card slot here. So I tend to put them all in one because they're either all small, or there's 4 of a distinctive size, which will be these 4, or there's 2 of a distinctive size, which have to be these. So I don't have to separate the screws because you'll see in a minute why it's kind of obvious which is which. I think that's all of them out. No, we've got one somewhere else there, hiding behind the caps. And with that out, lift up and pull forward because these ports get stuck otherwise. Get rid of the bottom case a minute. And if we tip them screws out, you'll see now if we get these screws here, you will see you can easily tell the difference then. So you've got them screws are just taken out. You can see, in fact, are all 4 of these the same? Or all 6 rather, if I could count. Yeah, so all them are... No, they're not. There you go. So you got the 4 longest go in the cartridge port, the 2 slightly smaller, the memory card, and the rest are tiny. So you don't have to kind of keep them separate if you just use a bit of logic there to know where they're going to go to and from. The issue on this board, we are looking at probably the VF RAM, so called the video RAM, but obviously in the schematic, this is the FV RAM, sorry. So these are the likely culprit. Either these are faulty, or the pins from here to, I think they go to here. I did a lot of work on the schematic as well. So if we go to Neo Geo, when I was working through these, the irony is I did a ton of work on the schematic myself to write and document things. So if I pull up the screen, you can see this is the original schematic that I've overlaid all these. So I've put headers at the top so you can easily find what's on what page. I've put these orange blobs on and the pink blobs and little greens to indicate where everything is on the board and what they're called. Spent absolutely ages doing all this. And then now I think somebody released, well, I know they have. Do I have a copy of it? Somebody released the full schematic redrawn. So if we trust it and it's accurate enough, we now have a searchable schematic, which helps us basically, so to find things a bit easier. So the thing we're looking for, and to be honest, I kind of know my schematic easier, so I can flick through and look at the blue at the top. Z80 and this, LSPC, reset circuit, video RAM, palette RAM. There's probably going to be on this circuit here. And then you got the SV RAM here, what I've labelled, and I've given it names of what they are. And you got the VF RAM, so sorry, not the VF, I keep saying VF, the FV RAM. So this is these two. So U19, U20. That is these two here. And you can see they're not labelled that. But if you look 5814, on here you can see it says 5863. And I've also written alternatively 5814. So the schematic doesn't really match the board. So that's why I did all this work on the schematic to help you actually find what you're on about in the schematic. Do not use earth straps when working. No, I've never found the issue yet. Never had an issue with not being earthed, so I just don't at the minute. If I ever see an issue, I will, but I don't get that. Love your work. Thank you very much. Glad you do. I've got the sub-only live stream tonight as well at 4:30. I need not forget that. Looking at buying a Neo Geo AES in the future. Yeah, they're definitely 100% worth it. They cost a fortune, but definitely worth it. I'd say Metal Slug is the one you want to go for with the game. But yeah, get ready to spend some money if you're going to buy one of these. So these two chips then, they connect to... we can see the address pins go across, through, and into the LSPC, which is the line sprite. I can't remember what the rest of it stands for. Line sprite something I did originally, remember. Then you've got the data pins that join together and go into the line sprite again. Doesn't look like this goes anywhere else. So we're pretty much isolated to these two chips then. So before we take these out, let's just start with a really obvious thing. Let's just take a look at this chip and maybe reflow it. So if it is the issue it's complaining about, it might be a fairly easy fix. Or it might not be. We'll soon find out. So, that there. Full focus. And the one thing to note on this, and I think I note it on the wiki, is even though this looks fairly clean, if you see anything, let's see if I can find anything, even the slightest bit of flux. So see this little bit of yellow? I'm going really close. It's this little bit of crusty yellow here. So I've got tweezers instead of my big fingernail. This here. If you see a little bit too much of that on the Neo Geo specifically, these chips are very susceptible to that flux. So whether the original flux here was a little bit conductive or wasn't a no clean flux, you'd be surprised how many Neo Geos you can fix by just reflowing chips that would otherwise look okay. So this doesn't look too bad. I'm definitely going to reflow it though. But let's just take a look at, see if I can find one of the chips. And well, to be honest, I put it on the wiki, like I say. If I go to Visual Diagnostics and scroll up, so see here, this was an actual one that I did on a stream where you see that flux there? That caused the issue. So there was nothing wrong with the chip. That little bit of flux between them pins caused this issue here. Massive corruption. Reflowed that chip, got rid of that flux, and I don't think I showed the fix because obviously the point is showing the problem, but that fixed it. So they are very susceptible to the flux on these boards I've found through just pure experience working on them, basically. So they don't look that bad on this one. So the first thing I'm going to do is we could either stab some of these pins, just see if they're loose, see if the solder's dried up, just out of curiosity, and then I'm going to reflow them anyway, just to see it, because sometimes like the pins will just naturally work their way loose, and you can see when I'm pushing, see the yellow coming from underneath? That's all the flux they've left on the board. So every one I'm pushing, I'm breaking the flux coming up. So that's also why you reflow, because you don't really want this flux drying up and being conductive. So the pins seem solid, but I'm just going to start with a reflow of this, to be honest. AES 3.5, yeah, my personal one, to be honest, probably the AES 3.5 is probably one of my personal favourites, the 3.5 or the 3.6. I think I've fixed all the video issues on both of them. I think we have perfect video on both of them now. Is there a way to reflow the whole board at once? Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. You're introducing potential issues. Just work your way around the board and do it properly. But you can basically buy reflow ovens where you sit this whole thing in a specific reflow oven that brings the entire board up to a reflow profile and reflows the chips. I won't do that though. So what we want to do is reflow this. I'm going to, just because I can, make use of my preheater. Again, no real reason. I brought one, I brought two. I want to make use of them now. So let's just grab that. Let me just check before the comments go too far up and I miss any. Yeah, you just got the box. I missed that one. Yeah, with the Amigas in. I didn't have time to test them, but I got you some. The irony was they were boxed as well, but I couldn't fit the boxes in the DHL boxes, so you didn't get the boxes. But yeah, see what you think when you get to working on them. MVS I've actually got two of as well. The MVSs aren't as expensive as the AESs. There was way more of them, basically. Turn the extractor on as well, because we're about to be needing the extraction. Right then, so we have a little preheater. This just helps with warming the boards up so they're not stone cold when you're reflowing. Absolutely not needed, but I brought a few and I want to use them, so I'm going to make use of it just for the sake. But don't worry if you don't have this. It'll just take a little bit longer to reflow, but you definitely don't need these. They just, like I say, in fact, I've even used this. I think I used it once when I brought it and showed it off on stream. So we are going to, this is the bit that'll heat up, this white area here. I'm just going to place, is this board too big? Oh, that works. going to place it like that. This is no, in the completely wrong place. This is the chip we want to warm up, and the board's top heavy there. There we go, that works. So this will be under the heat here, so that'll work there. And then I can work with, move that light out of the way. I can work with the hot air from above here, and probably zoom out a bit so you can see. There we go. Maybe zoom in a bit. I don't know whether this is going to focus this close. Yeah, there we go. So all I'm going to do, let's turn this preheat on because this takes a little while. Turn to heat and 200. Yeah, 200 is probably the perfect temp. We go much more, and potentially the preheater might end up like reflowing other things. No, the preheater can be adjusted. So zoom out, you can't really see it there. Turn it. So I can just adjust the temp there. So I'm just going to go to 200. It's also got a cool function on. So there's a little switch here. This goes to hot or cold. So I presume once you're done, you can put cool on. I don't know whether there's any fan that blows air. I'm not sure. But yeah, that's all set at 200. And now we just wait. And then I'll put some flux on here, reflow with hot air. And that's it. And then I guess if that doesn't fix it, I'll socket these. I don't know whether to socket them at the same time, because while I'm preheating the board, it almost makes sense to lift these out and put sockets in. Because if we're lifting these out, I probably want to preheat the board as well. So I might lift these out. That's working quite fast. That's actually warm to the touch already. Yeah, I might lift these out, not change them, just lift them out, put sockets in, put them back in at the same time. I think we will. So if we're doing that, we need to get solder fume extractor nice and close. There we go. I want to cover that so I don't melt me fume extractor lid. What else do we need? We probably need these pullers, so when I come to pull these chips, I can grab and lift. Yeah, I think I'll do that. I'm actually going to go up to 220. I'm going to get quite toasty on this. And I guess we're at 150 now on the temps. Sold my 2-slot MVS with Z80 error in the late 90s. Oh yeah, the Z80 is nothing to repair as well. But like I say, to be honest, the MVSs aren't that expensive these days. I've got two. I've got one that I've converted into an AES housing, a brand new AES housing. So it looks like an AES, but you can play the MVS games. And then I've got an actual MVS in like an acrylic printed case that I actually repaired for somebody. Did a TikTok video on it. And then they sold it to somebody. They broke it and returned it. It's like abused eBay, basically. So the customer was left with paying us to repair it, then selling it, and then somebody breaking it. I brought it back off them just because I felt guilty for them, because they struggled to sell it and they only did it for money. So I still own that and I haven't refixed it. So we might fix that at some point, the MVS. Is this board warping already? Yeah. Let's turn that down. We've actually got warp on this board because... knocking the game over. Good job, it's my game. Yeah, this board has got major warp. Look at that warp already. That's just from the preheat. Wow. So let's preheat the whole board then. And let's bring these temps down. That's mad. I know they can warp because of the size, but that's that's got some crazy warp on it for a bit of preheating. Look at that. That's mad for, and that's obviously because it'll bend back into shape when it cools down, but that's because we've warmed this corner of the board up and this board's cold. Yep, this is a Neo Geo AES. We're just preheating the board. I was just preheating it to use my preheater, but there's the AES. but we got some crazy warp going on the board because of the temperature difference. So I'm now just preheating the other part of the board that I didn't need to preheat, just to unwarp this board a bit. It's also probably got quite a lot of moisture trapped in it from not being worked on yet. So we're probably drying the board out nicely as well doing this. It looks like a canoe, yeah. I don't think I've ever seen a board warp this much. I love the mood chair, yeah. Nice Doom chair. There, we're slowly starting to straighten out. Turn this around. I thought my eyes were deceiving me. I was like, that can't be bending that much. And I looked, I'm like, no, it really is. And like I say, these aren't needed. The preheaters, they just help with, well, this room's dusty. Probably this Neo Geo. Just helps with when you're working on them to not be stone cold. Yeah, look at that. That is madness. Wow. This board is just bend central. So what you can also do as well is when they're cooling down, and I've done this before, you can just literally, board's too hot to touch. And so you can basically bend them. Like if I could put my fingers on here when they're cooling, you push the board up like that to get it flat, and then let it cool while you're holding it in place. But why is this? This is sitting at 230 as well. Is that blow cool air? I've got it set to 180 and it's sitting at 240. Not that it's a problem, that wouldn't be an issue for the Boeing as such, but yeah, this whole board. There's probably, I guess if you're preheating this board, maybe you'd want to preheat the entire board because they are quite large and clearly these are susceptible to warping more than I thought. So yeah, it's starting to not warp now, it's cooling down. So I think I'm gonna, I don't know, do we just ignore the preheat for this? I think we do, because I'll spend all day just trying to get this thing to not warp, because I'll keep staring at that, whereas when this cools, it's going to be flat anyway, so sod that off. Poor preheater, that's twice you've not been used. Out of the way, let's just do this without the preheater. Yeah, you could also pin them down. They'll cool flat like this. You can see at the minute this is like rocking like crazy. When this cools down, it should naturally unwarp. But like I say, if they don't, I tend to just warm them up, hold them in position, and let them cool back down. Right, so let's flux this. I think we already fluxed it, but just add a bit more flux. Let's get this, go on the overhead, bring this in, and all I'm going to do is warm this up. So we're at 330. I think, to be honest, I think this hot air I've got, this new one, the Quick K8, is definitely more powerful than the other Quick, the one I was using before, because I've done quite a bit with it now. I was doing a Dreamcast clean power prototype yesterday, and the 330 took the chip off immediately, and I normally need 480 for that. Like, you will not get it off without 480, and it just took it off so easy. So I think this iron is definitely more powerful. But the board's now at least a little bit warm, it's not freezing. So this reflow around here won't take long. Probably take still a minute because it's quite a big chip. And then I'll probably push down the chip as well for good measure. I doubt this is going to fix it, but we'll start with this. Preheater was set to 200, but it was going to 240, so I don't know whether I set something wrong or I don't know what was going on with it, but it went up to 240, but that still wouldn't be enough to warp the board, really. Bent nozzle, yeah, this is the other iron, isn't it? This is the new one I brought, sorry, the hot air. I don't think I've brought in fact, I think I have brought a bent nozzle for it, but still somewhere in China. Basically, it hasn't come yet. Yeah, it's annoying without the bent nozzle. You kind of you can't see as easy. And this flux, what flux have I used? Is this that shit flux? And this is the HTTF. I still prefer the ASM because you can see it bubbling. Let's mix these fluxes up. Why not? Oh, they're both HTTF. I've just got two of the same flux in the tub. There we go. So I can see the pins reflowing, like bubbling. See if you can see them here when they start to liquefy. Hard to see due to the camera angle. Yeah, you see how that's bubbling? That's how you can see this is molten. That's why I like the ASM flux, because you see it bubbling just before it reflows. So you kind of get a feeling that when the flux bubbles, you know the pins are about to reflow. Whereas this flux, the HTTF and the V5, they don't bubble. So to be honest, I'm going to try the other flux after. So that's just a reflow. Highly doubt this will work, but we'll start with that. And then if that fails, which I'm pretty sure it will, we're going to remove these, socket them, look for trace damage or probe them. I can't see any trace damage either. Looking at these traces, there's no obvious dark patches or anything. So I don't think necessarily we're looking at trace damage. I think we're looking at actual bad RAM, which is not that common. Like I say, it's not normally the actual RAM. Or this reflow will help. I think we're looking at one of them two things. Chip moved a little. It might have just been the visual, like doing this, because the board's got that little bit of a bow in at the minute. I didn't get it hot enough, I think, to reflow all the pins in one go. And they were slightly misaligned anyway from factory. I noticed when I looked at it. But we'll power it up, and if we have issues, we'll take a closer look at that. Just make sure everything is aligned nicely. Well, this flux is messy on the back of it already. There we go. So probably chances of this fixing it, maybe like 3 out of 10, I'd say. Let's try. Yeah, that board warp's pretty much gone now. So you can see all it's done is cooled down and unwarped itself. But yeah, let's not bother with the preheater on that again for now. Right, power. We've got power here. Flip around. TV back on. Cable back in and game back on. Do I buy old brand new boards? What do you mean by old brand new? The Sony chips are up here. The two we're about swapped. They are the video RAM chips, basically. Let's take a look on here and turn on. No difference. So we're missing, you should see Neo Geo here. So we've still got the same issue. See how you got the C, but no Neo Geo. So it's still exactly the same as suspected. So we need to yeah, nothing. So exactly the same as what we had, basically. No change whatsoever, as suspected. So now let's take off these video RAMs. I'm almost definitely going to have to find some. But let's get them off first and clear the holes. A few ways of doing this. What I tend to do on these is blast them with hot air from above, lift them off in one go. That's my typical technique on these. The other technique we could try is the desolder pump gun thing that I've got, but I don't really like that. It doesn't tend to work. Maybe we'll try it again, give it a chance. The main reason I don't like it is because it can tear traces as well. So let's give this the best chance of working. We'll put some leaded solder over these pins. Then we'll use the desolder pump to try and clear off most of the solder. And then after that, we'll probably hot air it out because it probably won't quite clear it off fully. So this is just mixing in leaded solder with what I presume it is lead-free. It might be leaded because of the 80s and all that lot, but I'm just mixing in leaded solder to bring down the melting temperature to make it easier to remove. And now if we get the desolder gun, you guys know I don't really recommend or use much, but I keep trying to give it a go. Let's give it another chance. So this is the Hakko FR301. I've had it for a while, never really use it. We've got it set to 3, which is 450. See, that's plenty of heat. I've got the correct size nozzle on it now, which was the key difference. I had a whopping nozzle on, now it's a bit smaller, but that noise just does me head in. So I couldn't desolder much because that would drive me nuts. So the main thing you want to look out for, see these tiny traces coming off the holes? I find these tend to rip them traces, but because I've now got a nozzle that's smaller than the pad size, it doesn't touch the traces, so hopefully it doesn't do any damage. VRAM ICs, I can still buy them from factory, yeah. I know good factories in China I can buy them from. So that goes over pin. Oh, that one's actually cleared it. Yeah, it's not doing a bad job on this one. Yeah, so to be honest, on this particular board, it's not doing a bad job. But you just have to put up with that noise while I desolder this, I guess. Yeah, Neo Geo cartridges are huge. Yeah, that's part of the pleasure. When you plug these things in, you really feel like you're actually plugging in a proper game. How much do I charge for board repair? If you go on retro6.co.uk, sending services, it all varies on what you're having done. Whether you're having a repair, diagnostics, mods, but all the prices are on there. Wow, this takes a long time. So I'd normally use hot air and a desolder pump. This is definitely a slower process for me. But it does look like it's working. The thing is, if it doesn't fully clear the hole, then it's as good as useless, because then you have to use another technique to finish off removing it, which kind of defeats the purpose of, either doing it this way or another way. But so far, it does actually seem to be working. It's just I can't get you a good angle because I'm left-handed and my hand's basically always in the way. So whether you watch me doing it like this, you just see my hand. But yeah, just wait for me to do this, basically. Yeah, my preferred technique is definitely hot air and a desolder pump. That's like my typical method. You think the lowest temp's not low enough? See, I think, well, I wouldn't even run it at 350. I can try it at 350, but it's working at 450. But yeah, well, I love to run things as hot as possible half time. See, I just find you'll probably see in a minute. I'll probably have a broken trace now. My look, right? That's apparently all that desoldered, and it isn't. So there's a perfect example. That's desoldering done, nice and slow. This chip here, turn it around. This is the one that should be desoldered, and it's not. Still rock solid in. So this is why, again, one of the many reasons I don't use these. Now you've got to mess around trying to find loose, 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 loose. No, that's still caught on the edge there. Loose, caught on the edge. So still hasn't cleared them. That's why I kind of don't use them. So now I just resort to hot air, which is what I do. You wouldn't need to use the desolder gun at all if you're hot airing. So it's kind of, obviously, like I always say, it's probably just my skill level with them because I don't like them and don't use them much anyway. You'll probably find that if you just practice, maybe you get better. But there's a perfect example why I don't even bother with them guns. They sound annoying, they take ages. Just hot air it and lift it off, basically. And then you can just use these little tools to lift up so you don't scrape under the board. Yeah, BDP Destroyer for sure. Yeah, Hugo, you were probably the one that recommended the nozzle size. That's why I give it another go. But as you can clearly see, I still don't like them. They still don't work. And I'll still probably whinge about them. Like, hot air is just, you know, why bother? Why bother with a desolder pump? We've hot aired the chip off. Grab me desolder pump. This is exactly why. And I've never seen anybody do it. Every time I do it this way, you get people in the comments, you need to buy a desolder gun. You don't know what you're doing. It's like, shut up. I know what I'm doing. My way's quicker. So that's off now. And then I just come in with the hot air. Warm up. Desolder pump. The hole's clean. So even if these weren't desolder pumped before, just go down like this and clear the holes in seconds. Like, there's just no need for a desolder gun, ever really. And doing this way, you're never touching the traces. So it's kind of, you know, that's just my preferred way, basically. So now let's do this other chip. This has got all the solder still on, so this is not going to have the advantage of being partially used by that solder gun. I'm going to unplug him because I'm not going to use him again. Let's warm this up and just see. Oh yeah, I can also desolder pump the holes with the little air blower as well. We did that on the was it the Amiga 500 yesterday. It worked quite well. We had one hole we think we saw a bit of popcorning on. So I've probably still got to practice with the temps a bit, but yeah, it works really good. So you can see this is nearly off. All I've got to do is warm the ground plane. There we go. Right, you tell me it's worth a desolder gun when that's all I've had to do. And then which one's easier? And if you want that to help flow as well, you can just put a bit of, see how we're getting like dry solder when I'm doing that? Just put a bit of flux on, it kind of cleans up the dryness. There we go, I think he's done. So the only thing with this is you'll get repetitive strain injury when you do a lot of holes, but then we can use the micro hot air at that point. Alright, so perfectly clear holes. And these are the little dots I'm on about. These are kind of these little green dots. This is when the internal layers start to dry out, and these are probably almost like micro bubbles, to be honest. These are like probably micro delamination, but it's not causing an issue there. And you can probably improve that again if you're going to take a bit more time. Maybe I need to perfect the temps on this new hot air station, stuff like that. But that's a sign that there's maybe a little bit of excess heat going down there that we want to be careful of. What's in the other hand? It's not a solder sucker. Yeah, this thing. 1 second. So this is a desolder pump. This is by Engineer. I believe it is a Japanese make. It's basically got a silicon tip on the end so you don't damage traces with any metal. And then you just put it over the hole and press the button, and obviously creates a vacuum basically. I'm going to put this down here. This useless desolder gun that I never use. Clean up a bit because there's a bit of shit everywhere now. Try and keep this workbench a bit cleaner. I've got them 2 chips out. Zoom out a bit. Let's move them out of the way. Clean up this desk before we carry on. I always stop and clean up multiple times throughout just to make sure everything stays clean. Suck up the screws, otherwise we'll have even less. Don't I read TikTok? I do, yeah. I've got a load of comments. I've got comments on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and I'm trying to work, so I read all the comments. It'll just take a little while till I glance over and see people's comments. That's that clean. So let's bring this back in now. So now we need to put the sockets on over here. Oh yeah, I've seen all the Commodore 64. I used to watch the guy that's brought it. Well, I still do. When he just works on Commodore 64s, but yeah, he's brought all the rights to it and started production again, so that's pretty cool. Right, TikTok, let me catch up with these. Do repair CRTs? No, we don't at the minute, sorry. Oh, yeah, I've had loads of comments on TikTok. Let me scroll right up. Do you show your diagnostics techniques? Yeah, that's literally what we're working through. I'm kind of explaining as we're going. Metcal, yeah, Metcal would be better. I just don't really use that. I don't see the need for them desolder pumps. I think the hot air and suction works better anyway for me. The warping, wow, we haven't answered TikTok in a while. The warping on that board was pretty much the one part of the board being hotter than the other. So then the materials expand at different rates, but it's cooled down and it's flat now. So this, when it's screwed back down, will be as flat as it was. It's resting on them pins in the center now. So you'll still get a little bit of rockage, but it's as flat as it can be now. Yeah, a lot of people say they like the FR301. You can see why I don't. It just didn't work then. Plenty of heat, leaded solder, flux, still didn't clear the holes. And I don't want to be messing around constantly putting a hot tip on the board all the time. You're just going to damage them traces. Percentage of lead I'm using, I think it's 60. Yeah, I'm using 60. Let me see. I'm trying to read the solder through the gap. I use this at the minute. So we've got SN60, PB40. So PB's lead, isn't it? 40 lead, 60 tin has SN. Can't remember. Guess a pre-recorded video. No, just slow it answering the comments. The end goal of this is fixing it for a customer. So this is it's got video issues. If you looked at the start of the stream, it's got some issues. So we're basically repairing it. The pump I'm using is an Engineer. Let me just pull it up for you because it's the original make. It was a make made in Japan that everyone's now cloned. So I've got like I've got the clone ones here, like Real Life and Mechanic, and everyone have made them, but they're not quite the same. They've got like a sharp edge on here. So use-wise, over and over, your thumb ends up wearing off. But this works. Other than that, it's fine. But the original make is Engineer. Let me see if I can find it for you. Engineer SS03. You can get them on Amazon if they're genuine. So it will be Engineer SS03. That's the one you want. Do repair car amps? No, we pretty much only do what's on the website now, just to keep up. Where you can buy a GameCube, we sell them. retro6.co.uk, and then ready-made, and you can buy GameCubes there. Grounded when working on circuits? I've never been and never had issues. Actually, I need to desolder the pump. Maybe them extra holes. Let me see if I've got the sockets for them. Obviously, in that comment on things, check all the Prestiges already made to make sure we've got all the consoles for them, like PS2s and that, because we're definitely going to need some. Yeah, we're going to need to clear them 2 holes because these are larger. Yeah, move that desoldering gun into the garage. I think we need to. Let me just clear them last 4 holes off. Money in the repairs? No, it's nothing special. You can make some if you get used to it and you know what you're doing. So I can repair these fairly quickly, like diagnose them and repair them typically fast. So you can sometimes make good money, but no, it's nothing special. You know, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. Why did I get into it? Just enjoy it, basically. Enjoy making stuff. So I'll make the hardware for them as well. And I just like learning new stuff. So repairing things that are broken is a nice little exercise to go from not knowing something to figuring out something works. Seeing if you're good, you can get 2 holes in one go. Yeah, Ben Heck, I've seen. He actually made like a giant Game Boy years ago before most of the people got into the Game Boy screen mods. I think he'd like made a massive Game Boy, like physically huge. I watched that one. So now we can socket these and put them back in. Not that it's going to help us. I think we're going to have to, like I say, find replacement chips. But we'll just put them back in after we've done the sockets to make sure we haven't done any more damage by taking the sockets out first, and then we'll swap these chips. That's hot. touching the board underneath and it's boiling. That's tacked into place. Is this a computer build? No, this is a repairing a Neo Geo AES retro games console. I can see everybody else has answered before I've managed to even see that comment. There we go. And now we've got some sockets in there. So we're going to put the original chips back in first, just to make sure, like I say, we've got the same behavior, because obviously when you socket stuff, you can rip traces, or even if you don't rip traces, just taking sockets and chips out, with them being old circuit boards, can do more damage. So we want to make sure we've got the same amount of issue as we had before we swap out the chips. I think this needs a bit of desolder braid on. I think there's a bit of excess solder on here. That should be enough. And let's see where we're at now. I think I answered that other one. Do I do Panasonic Q? No, we don't. I used to, but we don't anymore. I don't do repairs on them, unfortunately. Just don't like working on them. Take too long, too many ribbons. And like I say, we have enough work to keep up with as it is. Console-wise, funnily enough, I got into it with Game Boy Advance, but I prefer like the PlayStation 1 and the Xbox original. More for the the long-term game, but I do the Game Boys I do just for Pokemon. Basically, that's the main reason of initially doing this, was to restore a Game Boy Advance. Yeah, no coffee. I've had 3 before this stream. That's why I had 2 on the machine and went out for 1. So that's why I don't currently have one, but I'll be getting one. Don't worry. Right. So this now we should, I presume, see exactly. Oh, see, worse. So we should see exactly the same. Now we've got corruption in a different area, so that's a sign that those traces are damaged or bad in this chip. So let's restart. Yeah, so we've obviously now got, again, probably a fractured trace, maybe from that stupid desolder pump. So we've got 2 issues to look at. So let's ignore the overlay now, and we will swap these out first to see if we get the background sprites back, and then we can look at the traces on these sockets after. So that's probably, I'm going to blame that desolder gun on that, because that's exactly why I don't like using the desolder guns. You won't see the damage if he does that. You won't even see that it's damage traces, but I bet it has. I bet if we find a broken trace, it's the one we use the desolder gun on. But first now I want to see if I've got these chips lying around. The 5814, so I've got to go look for them. That didn't take long, literally right by me. So we have some we can replace. So these are the originals. These are the new. You can see they're basically new old. So these are real. They're just like unused stock from factory or refurbished. But either way, these should work. If this is obviously one of the problems. So let's take these out. Put these new ones in. And then let's see if this gives us now the background sprites back. That's what we're hoping for, if they were faulty. One of the caps is almost desoldered. Yeah, I can sort him out. He's just a decoupling cap. He won't cause us issues as such. See where we're at with that. There we go. Sorted. So maybe them chips were just on their way out and warming them up has fractured them more. So it looks like it could have been the socket, but obviously it's not going to be the socket. It's going to be the fact that when we've warmed these up, it's got worse. So that looks normal. This noise, not this, the circle thing is the camera lens. This lines going across and up is, turn that down a bit. That is mains hum that you see. In fact, that stabilizes. Where did I put my hand there that it kind of equalised the colour nicely? Like it keeps correcting the colour and then going back off. How do I get it to correct the colour? Putting my hand over maybe? I can almost get the camera lens to focus right, but yeah, that's fully working, looks clean. Let's see if it probably won't work on the clean RGB cable because it's not been clean RGB'd, so the output isn't technically 100% correct without being modified for proper RGB. So that's probably why it struggles to lock on sync. But let's just try it anyway. I think that should just appear or so. Wrong one. HDMI. Turn it off and on maybe. Is it going to lock on? It's trying, but it's going to be the sync basically. I bet the sync hasn't been properly modded. Maybe we just quickly mod the back for proper RGB, at least on the sync. So on the back of here, we have these pins here. I think, if at the top of my head, this one's C-Sync, this one's composite. They go through. I can't really remember. I'll pull up the wiki. I've got a feeling it's going to have composite on sync, not a proper C-Sync, or C-Sync's missing, so that's why it's not locking on. Yeah, for micro-delamination, that can definitely cause the issues. 100% agree there. Luckily, it hasn't in this case. But yeah, you're right on that one. How did I learn this stuff? Just self-taught. Just doing exactly this, working my way through boards, looking at schematics, things like that. And the bot's still telling people off. Refrain from spamming caps. I thought I turned all them warnings off. I need to fix that cap as well on the other side. Let me just jump back on TikTok a minute before I get too many of them. You took solder from that blue cupboard. Yeah, let me just fix that cap before we forget, because quite a few people are mentioning obviously the cap. That's just a decoupling cap there, so it'd be a 0.1 microfarad cap. Just get some solder back on him a second, and then we'll try and get this outputting. Now the customer does want it modding though as well. So now it's working. They're probably going to have a clean RGB anyway, but I don't know till I contact them what it is they want. But I am going to. There's no downside to fixing the C-Sync pad on the AV. Like, there's literally no reason. Nice soldering, yeah, thanks very much. Not the cleanest. I don't profess to do perfect soldering jobs, but it gets the job done. It's got a bit of gunk on here. So this is one of the rare occasions where the boot screen being yellow is actually correct, and it was the video RAM. It's rare that that test is right, but turns out it is. Any tips for soldering HDMI ports? Hot air at pretty much every single console. Hot air at your maximum, 500 degrees, 120% airspeed. Pre-tin the large pads either side of the HDMI with leaded solder first, and then just go at it with hot air. As close as you can, as hot as you can to lift it off. While the board's still hot, reflow all the pins with solder, and then keep the board hot and just drop your fresh one in. I'll have to do a video on it sometime. Yeah, you can do board reflow without hot plate. We did it, basically just warm the, you'll see me doing it loads, I just warm the chips up with hot air, go around them, and reflow them that way. Warpage rarely breaks traces now. Technically it's possible. Warpage rarely damages anything, just more of a bad thing to see. It always can, but no, it's not common. Oh, thank you for the tip, big bro. Is that going on Rusty or me again? Is that going to be the drinks or the treats? Which one's it going on? Right, so AV port is the last thing I want to look at. So if I go to the wiki again, AV pinout, if I pull up this one, is it? Bit of both, cool. I might actually take him to Costa, how's that? So we can both have one. So on the back, you can see we have composite and C-Sync on the port. If we scroll down, this is the underside, which is this what we're looking at here. So yeah, comp is the top, C-Sync is the bottom. And then to save looking further, I also have a C-Sync fix thing somewhere around here. There, RGB C-Sync mod. So this will tell us the mod we need to do. You can see it looks like it's this version. So obviously it is composite, not C-Sync. So I'm going to guess that's this board. It looks exactly the same. So obviously I made this wiki, but I forget what I've done within 24 hours. So look at my own wiki. We need to cut this trace. And this is removing, this is why the OSSC won't lock onto C-Sync, because it's not really C-Sync. So we need to, what's blowing out on that? We need to blow out this trace here. And again, customer won't mind. This is fixing an issue technically with the AV port. Well, this is a weak tip. It's making this look really difficult. I think my tip's blunt. Where am I? Nearly ground the wrong plane. Yeah, this this is as blunt as it gets. I need to swap that tip out. Yeah, this is basically a factory issue in a sense. Like, this pin was always meant to be C-Sync, and they just pass composite through being lazy because CRTs can lock onto composite most of the time. So we cut that trace, and then we wire C-Sync with a 75 ohm resistor, which goes to it'll go to the CXA chip. It looks like it goes over to is it the second pin here? Where's my finger? There. No, not that chip. This one, maybe. Yeah, this one. So it goes to second pin in there. So we need to tack a wire. Well, tack a resistor. So let's grab 75 ohm resistor. Choose a baby one. Make it look clean. And you need 75 ohm. Like, a lot of people don't use 75 ohm. And it'll work, and they'll use it to like lower voltage and stuff. But in the receivers, like the TVs and the OSSCs, they have a capacitor, normally a 470 picofarad capacitor, for a very good reason. It's to make a low-pass filter that's 4 megahertz. And it's 4 megahertz because the maximum frequency of composite and RGB is 4 megahertz. So it filters out everything above that and removes noise. If you put a different size resistor on the output to get your voltage correct, which is what most other RGB mods do, and they don't realize it's wrong, it'll work, but you're removing the filter or you're making the filter less efficient on the receiver, so you can add noise. And I've seen it multiple times, and it does add noise. And people think it's then the consoles that's at fault, but it's actually the RGB mods that people have made that are at fault. They're not made correctly. So obviously the clean RGB does it the correct way and keeps the resistance at 75 ohms and corrects the voltage through a different circuit. But again, you probably wouldn't notice the difference if you're not really keen on kind of the perfection side of the image. So we've got a 75 ohm resistor there. We're going to tack now onto this pad. There we go. And then this wants to go over to here. There we go. So short of cleaning up all the flux and things. That is the C-Sync restored. So we've got 75 ohm to there, going to the port there. Just bear with me a minute, guys. I'll stay on stream, but I'll just mute the audio a sec. Okay, so you can see that didn't fix the issue with sync. So it's obviously got more issue, but like I said, this technically isn't an issue as such for us because if we were going to do a clean RGB mod, we'd obviously fix it properly. So we've restored C-Sync, which I'm just going to quickly check. We do actually have C-Sync on there. Just I kind of want to get it on screen for you, show it working, you know, on screen a bit clearer than the CRT image. But we don't have to do this. This is just, obviously I just want to quickly see. Ground, I can never remember where grounds are on these. Let me pull up the image. There's that many pads you'd think on a Neo Geo that are ground that actually aren't. Let's go off the port. Grounds are the top two. So let's just tap on here. Yeah, mic was muted. I was just on the phone, basically. So I was just carrying on working while I was on the phone just to see if it worked. So let's now just plug this in. We'll open up the probe. And have a quick look on this. But like I said, it's fixed and working. It's not a problem now for the customer. It's just I want to try and see if I can get the clean RGB working for us, just so we can see it on the stream easier. So let's see what's going on with C-Sync. Pull up the PC over. Trigger on here, go to C-Sync, and now we're just going to turn on without a game, but we should still see a sync. Yeah, so the only issue there then is we've got a DC offset. So that is, it's going to need a proper mod really to fix that. We might be able to fix it by, no, you can't really. You've got the DC offset. So to use a clean RGB cable, like our SCART, you need to properly mod it. You can't just tap off. This point, you need to remove the offset. So it'd need a proper clean RGB putting on. But what I could do, just so you can see it still, there is still a way of showing you this. Take that out. We can just get, I think it's a Hyperkin cable. Just to get us HDMI so you can see it on screen rather. So let's just try that. Get a Dogachino, yeah. He loves the cream, full enough, but he's if he has too much, he'll throw it up. Most difficult repair to date, probably arcade machines. Lack of documentation and just the sheer number of chips on them. Although I think the Apple SE30 was quite difficult to figure out. That took a good while. That's all. I think that's where I started these streams. So I think if you go to the YouTube and go to the very first streams, that was the first thing I started on. It was actually one of the most difficult repairs I'd done in a while. Hello from New Zealand, welcome in. Sorry, I'm very late on replying to the comments. There is a HDMI converter for this board. You can use the Hyperkin I'm going to grab, or you can properly mod it for RGB and then run it through an OSSC, which is what I was just trying to do, basically. So let's see if this stock. Yeah, Hyperkin Neo Geo cable. Let's see if this works. Just so I can get you on screen. I'd still preference RGB modding so you can run them through. You can run them through CRTs, and then if you want HDMI, you run them through an OSSC. That's like my preferred way. No Game Boys. I'll be doing a pre-recorded TikTok and Instagram video for showing off the Clean Juice AA install in a few days when the batteries land. But repairing Game Boys, I don't normally do. I can do one. can do one on a random stream at some point. I think people like them. It's just I don't tend to work on them much. Plug this in. Have we got a USB over here? I'm gonna have to plug this in to the capture card as well directly, I think. Unless I've got a coupler, which I really need. That in there, that in there. Let me just see if I've got a HDMI coupler. No, I'll buy one, so I'll just drag this down, find out where this is going. There, unplug that. This is going straight to the capture card. Whether it works or not, we'll find out. Overlay. Wrong one again. Go to the capture card and turn on. And will it lock on? There we go. So that's locking on. Not getting audio, but that's probably just my setup. It comes and goes. That audio does on this HDMI. I always forget, I think. Yeah, I can't remember where I filtered the audio through. To be honest, I'm not going to mess with that midstream. But that will have audio, obviously, we know. And there's the output on stream. So I'll ask the customer whether they want to, well, they do want to mod it now, but I'll ask them what mods they want. You can actually see how bad that is, that cable. To see all the glitching and noise. But like I said, that's probably more so the fact it's not properly RGB modded, and the power supply is pretty shit, to be honest. That cheap power supply is adding all that noise. See that rolling line noise? And the fact this is too dark, this is just obviously why you'd have an like if you look at this and compare it to if we clean RGB it, you'll see the difference. This is, the image is dark, it's got noise on, and yeah, there's quite a few RGB issues there. But I'll ask the customer what mods they want. The system's obviously working. I'll give it a full test, memory cards, controllers, all that lot, but it looks like it's working good enough now. So that's that one repaired. Oh, nice. Yeah, what do you think of the Hori sticks? I've never used them. I actually, I spoke to one of the guys that was involved with marketing the guy that made them, and they were trying to make another version of it as well, I think, or I think it actually was competing with those, I believe. I can't quite remember which way around it was, but we didn't end up working with them. Oh yeah, the arcades were fun. The main thing was, though, more the people in the community, the arcade community were dicks. That's why I stopped working on. But if you check out retro6.wiki and go to like the Sega Multi-Mega, I've done an insane amount of diagnostics and info on the Multi-Mega, like ridiculous amounts. So if you ever get stuck on one of them, the wiki's got everything you need. So that's it, really. That's all I wanted to do on this one. I'll get back to the customer on what mods they now want, and then I'll crack on with all the other repairs. Yeah, I don't think I love the. I'm not a fan of these ones. Is this the Neo Geo CD or C or something version, like the smaller ones? I prefer your big squares. I've got the 2 big squares in the games room that I actually use. I use these ones for testing, but I do prefer the originals. So yeah, this Hyperkin cable, pretty shit, to be honest. Not good for much. I mean, it gets your HDMI, but if you compare that to, like I say, when we come to clean RGB this thing, you'll see the difference between a plug-in cable and a true clean RGB to HDMI. It's a world of difference. Yeah, pretty much end of stream. I'll be back on for the sub-only stream at 4:30. But that one will do for today. I've got other work to be doing as well. Otherwise, I'll just carry on streaming, but we've got work to do. So just wrapping up, just packing up, giving people a chance to leave any comments before we go, basically. Oh, my face cam randomly died there. It turned itself off. It gave up. Yeah, the real hair comment, that must have been somebody winding up. They can't actually think that, surely. GameCube HDMI, there's an open source thing called GC HDMI, I think it's called, which is basically DVI output, but that seems pretty good. And we've got now ones to try as well, high speedo ones, which we haven't installed yet, but they're generally good. Like for video output, they tend to be pretty stable and pretty good, but we haven't actually installed them yet. We've got them, just haven't soldered them into a GameCube yet. I think we've got one to build, so if we do, I can always show it on stream. We've definitely got a GameCube in. Let me just check if it's actually got HDMI or not. Consoles. No, they haven't paid for HDMI, just a Peekaboot, 1 terabyte. So we haven't got, at the minute, we haven't got a GameCube in for the HDMI, but if we do, I'll show it off, basically. Yeah, Retro 6 clean hair. And in fact, there is a command to turn that camera off. I just don't know what it is. The obspot command. Maybe I said the word that turns it off. Let me search what that is. Let's see if I can do it. Obspot voice commands. To wake tiny. No, I definitely haven't said that. It says sleep tiny. So the command works, but unless it mistook the accent for something saying that, what sounded like that? Nothing sounded like that. But yeah, that's technically the key word for it. So if we end up doing other people joining in on the stream, I'm sure you're going to start saying that on stream then to turn it off. Yeah, I'll do live stream showing how to remove components. If you become a member on YouTube or sub on Twitch, I do sub-only live streams and I show how to do all this. We've got one tonight at 4:30, tomorrow at 6:30, and yeah, I show off how to do all these. I think the last one I did was to show how to remove components. So if you become a member on YouTube, you can then go to Retro 6 Live, look at the VODs, and the last one I did will show you exactly that, if you wanted to see that. Is it for the $101? I believe it works on all of them. So it's this one here, which the install looks nice and simple. So we've just got the board to install. We've got a mini HDMI, which I'm not a fan of, and then a little ribbon with some solder points. So that looks nice and easy to install. But if you just typed in high-speedido GameCube HDMI, you'd find the details on it, whether it supports that. Like I say, we literally haven't had a chance to install them yet. No one's purchased one, so we haven't actually used them yet. Yeah, there was definitely, we'd have to look back at the stream and see exactly what was said when the camera turned off, and then we'd know what we said. Right, guys, so that's it. I will catch the subs at 4:30, and I'll probably catch everybody else maybe tomorrow. Yeah, I'll get a Rusty come QC this when it's done, definitely.